So from our understanding of ancient history then, nakedness was seen as something that people would avoid in social situations, but not necessarily something that others would take offense at or would be prescribed by law. In the times of the Roman Empire, the nobility and others with sufficient wealth and power would wear fine garments, but slaves might well be naked. Today it is part of the fundamental right of persons in this country that no one can be forced to be naked against their will. This certainly represents an advance in human rights and dignity from ancient times, but the pendulum swung further than that. Laws and social pressures not only preclude being forced to be naked, but also prohibit choosing to be naked in any non-private setting in many places. In the U.S., laws regarding public nudity are generally set by the states and so vary sometimes quite a lot from state to state. In most cases, the laws prohibit behavior that is obviously intended to be offensive, exposure directed at other persons, sexually explicit activity or gestures intended to attract attention or to offend, and so on. Words like lascivious and wanton appear often in the statutes. This prescription is appropriate and consistent with the general principle that behavior, which is aggressive, threatening, or otherwise intended to cause upset or fright, is outlawed. The problem is that many of these laws are written as if nudity itself, or specifically the lack of covering of designated body parts, is essentially an indication of sexual aggressiveness directed at others. This goes so far in some cases as to make it a crime to be seen naked even while in one's own house. Another oddity and inconsistency is that women's breasts and nipples are usually included in the list of verboten body parts, but no such prescription exists for men. This is not true in all states, however, partly as a result of court challenges based on gender equality rights. 5 states, New York, Hawaii, Maine, Ohio, and Texas, each have laws expressing allowing women to go topless in any location where men could do so legally. I can't help but contrast these laws with the very permissive laws in many states regarding guns, especially as many such laws have become more permissive in recent years. No one doubts that a gun is a dangerous weapon and can quickly cause injury or death to others at the whim of the user. Nonetheless, it is legal in many places to openly carry a gun. Hence, there are many places, perhaps right here in our own state, where if I walked down Main Street naked and carrying a powerful rifle, I would surely be arrested, but only for being nude, not for displaying a dangerous weapon. It's as if my little old naked body was a greater danger to the citizens of town than this powerful rifle I'm carrying. Now, it's true that anti-nudity laws are rarely enforced these days, but when they are, it can easily be for arbitrary and inappropriate reasons. In the same way, old religious, morality-based laws regarding private sexual acts, interracial marriage, and so on, were sometimes used for political motives or between spouses in divorce and custody proceedings or the like, long after these activities were part of social norms. The particular danger of these laws is that, as I noted earlier, they make simple nudity a sexual offense, thus making anyone found guilty a sexual offender and subject to the ongoing scrutiny and stigma of that designation. But enough of the dark side of attitudes toward nudity. Let's look at some of the positive and brighter parts of the picture. Let's consider the variety of ways that positive attitudes about nudity are increasing and the experiences that more people are having of finding that comfort with naked bodies, their own and others, can be part of a path to greater wholeness. First, there is the large and growing number of people who consider themselves nudists, meaning that they find or create environments where they can be nude in the company of others of similar inclination. Another term in common use along with nudist is naturist, this growing out of movements in the early and mid-20th century that held that the natural, that is, unclothed body, was a path to deeper connection and harmony with nature in general. For most nudists or naturists, it is in recreational activities that they find the opportunity for expression of their chosen preference. Indeed, the largest organization devoted to the purposes of supporting choice around nudity goes by the name of American Association for Nude Recreation, AANR. Its origins go back to around 1931, and some years back it was known as ASA, the American Sunbathing Association. The name changed several decades ago, reflecting that there are a lot of recreational choices for nudists, and that is in addition to sunbathing. AANR reports having served over 200,000 members over the years and presently counts some 200 resorts and affiliates supporting nude recreation. At this point, I think it would be appropriate to make known my own personal perspective. I am an active nudist, meaning that I seek out nude recreation opportunities and environments, and find it an important and positive part of my lifestyle. I have been a nudist, well, all my life, really. Even as a child, I generally jumped at the rare opportunities for a skinny dip or the like. However, it was not until about 20 years ago that I came to look for and take advantage of nude recreation opportunities. Another organization supporting and promoting body acceptance through nude recreation is the Naturist Society, TNS. The primary difference between the two is that AANR includes most nudist resorts and other commercial ventures available to nudists, whereas TNS is more of a grassroots organization working to maintain clothing-optional beaches and other non-commercial opportunities and to bring knowledgeable opposition to bear against local authorities who attempt to shut those things down. Nude resorts cover a large spectrum from simple campgrounds and rustic accommodations to very upscale resorts with all the usual amenities, restaurants, multiple swimming pools, tennis courts, and other sports, workout rooms, and so on. In some cases, there are permanent nudist communities connected with these resorts, communities where families reside year-round, send their children to local schools, and so on. Yes, indeed, it's a family affair. As you might expect, there aren't many year-round nudist resorts here in the Northeast. Our weather just isn't conducive to outdoor nude recreation all year long. Hence, such communities are mostly in southern states. Florida itself, one state alone, has perhaps a dozen altogether. We do have nudist communities here in the Northeast, but they're seasonal and close up over the winter. Another form of nude recreation which has grown considerably over the past 25 years is Nude Cruises. The best-known company in this area now offers several cruises each year in locations around the world. These sail on ships ranging from multi-masted vessels carrying only a few hundred passengers up to modern cruise ships carrying 2,000 to 3,000 passengers. Any doubt as to the popularity of nude recreation is quickly dispelled when you find yourself in the boarding lines for one of these big ships with 2,000 other people. I should mention the one reason for nude cruises is that once past the 3-mile mark from port, local laws regarding nudity don't apply, so the clothes can all come off. This is one of the presumably unintended consequences of our archaic laws and prejudices around nudity. Another expression of nakedness that has grown in the past dozen years is something called the World Naked Bike Ride. Basically, a group of bicyclists gather, generally in a city of some size, and ride around town for an hour or two wearing little or no clothes, as bare as you dare, the leaders describe it. Now, this event is not about, or primarily about, promoting nudism or the like. Rather, it starts with cycling advocacy and moves to strong environmental concerns related to cars, the fuels they require, and the pollutants they emit, in contrast to the environmental friendliness of bicycles. Another point is bicycle awareness, and the naked aspect is to dramatize the vulnerability of cyclists and pedestrians as well in cities clogged with cars. Related points include self-sufficiency, thinking globally while acting locally, and community building. Since 2004, the number of cities where rides are held has grown from 2 to more than 100 in many countries around the world, including about 12 in the US. One of these is Boston, which held its 6th annual ride this past July with some 200 riders, myself included. All these commercial activities exist only because there are a large and growing number of people who desire them and choose to allocate their recreation budget accordingly. So let's look a bit at how and why people become nudists. Most every nudist has a story about how they first tried it, and there's some common threads. For some, it was something that they had heard about and felt a pull to explore. For others, friends or a spouse perhaps, extended the invitation to come along on a visit to a nudist venue. Usually this is offered in a gentle way, leaving the newbie completely a choice about actually taking the plunge. In other words, the invitation is to come along, we'll be getting naked, but you can keep your clothes on unless and until you decide to do otherwise. The story usually continues with the newbie deciding to take the risk, and after only a few moments of awkwardness, finding a sense of freedom and comfort that they could not have imagined. Indeed, they may have been saying, "Oh, I could never do that," only a short time before. For long-time nudists, this sense of freedom and being at home in their bodies is often mentioned in tones that sound like a spiritual experience, even if that word isn't used. For many, there is that sense of being without shame, and so having a heavy burden lifted. It's as if we somehow managed to reverse a specific piece of that spell from the forbidden fruit, and now find ourselves in a Garden of Eden, naked and not ashamed. Although he wasn't talking about nudity, I think these words from Woody Guthrie capture that sense exactly. This is from a song you may have heard me sing sometime in the past here with Kathy and Harry. This morning I was born again. I was born again complete. I stood above my troubles and I stand on my 2 feet. My hand, it feels unlimited. My body feels like the sky. I feel at home in the universe where yonder planets fly.